Hello, yes, it's Joe here for Joyrider TV. Today I'm going to be talking about what preparations you should make if you're looking at going to a sailing event or competition. This video is going to be more like a podcast, so this would be appropriate just to put on in the car or while you're cooking or perhaps even doing something else. Going to an event, maybe a regional championship or long distance, is a great way to improve your sailing, pick up some tips and meet a lot of other like-minded people. So what sort of experience do you need to go and have a go at an event? Well, firstly, you should be able to pretty confidently handle your boat around an upwind, downwind course, up to trapezing wind strength. You should be able to stop your boat and sail slowly. This will be extremely useful on the start line. And you should certainly have at least a basic knowledge of the right-of-way rules. Before you go to the event, you should do as much preparation as you can. You want to be as prepared as possible, get as much done to your boat as possible at home or at your club, where you'll have much better facilities for doing these things to your boat than actually when you get to the event. As soon as you've decided that you are going to go to an event, enter the event as early as possible. This is your way of making it real that you're actually going to be going. It's kind of like you're signing a contract with yourself to say, yes, I am going to that event. Now, what do I have to do before we go? First thing that would be a good idea is to make sure that your boat is going to be class legal for that event. If you're sailing in a very local event, like perhaps it's a local long distance race or a club race of some description, then the class legal aspect isn't going to be such an issue. But if you're going to do, for example, a Hobie 16 regional competition, you certainly wouldn't be able to do that with non-original Hobie sails, and it will be worth checking with the class association if you are using non-original parts on your boat, just to make sure that you're not going to come across a small problem when you arrive. On the last sail, before you take your boat apart for transport, just while you're out sailing, just really analyse your boat and check for anything that could be improved. Check for any parts or lines that might need replacing, but do bear in mind that brand new rope can be pretty slippery. If you're transporting the platform of your boat assembled, then it's worth tightening the trampoline and any bolts before you go, so then that doesn't need to be done when you arrive. You can do that when you've got much more time. Check to see if the rudders need tuning, but only take on a full rudder tuning if you're confident that the end result will be an improvement. Check the batten tension. Are there creases in the batten pockets? If there are, then tighten the battens just to remove the creases. Wash your boat. That's a good idea. It's good psychologically. It makes you feel like you're doing everything you possibly can. But if you are going a fair distance on a trailer, it might need another wash when you arrive. What we've actually done in the past, after washing the boat before putting it on the road, is actually covering the holes in cling film. So then when we arrived at the event, we could just take the cling film off and the boat is sparkly clean. Pack your sailing kit. Decide what sailing kit you will need, like what wetsuit you'd need, depending on what the weather is going to be. Check the forecast for what you might be expecting when you get to the event venue, and then you can choose your sailing kit according to what you think the wind and the weather is likely to be. Pack spare parts and tools that you have available. Think about things that could possibly go wrong. And then make sure you've got the right paperwork for your boat. This will be, you'll need an insurance certificate, a measurement certificate, class association membership, things like that. But again, this will depend on the level of the event that you're going to. Again, if it's a local long distance race, you're unlikely to need a measurement certificate or class association membership, but any event you will need insurance, so make sure your insurance is valid. And then also something to make sure you've got is a watch with a countdown timer, otherwise you really will be lost on the start line. Before the event also, it is of course a really good idea to do as much practice as possible so that all your manoeuvres are becoming automatic. So you've practiced some start line work, so you could set up 2 buoys square to the wind, get your countdown timer, and just, if you've got no other boats to sail with, just do some timed runs into the start line. So if you haven't raced before, you have got an idea of your timing, of your ability to sail slowly and that kind of thing. Upon arrival at the venue of the event, it's a good idea to try to get to the venue as early as you can before the event. But again, this depends on how far you're travelling and what the level of the event is. If it's a national, perhaps European, maybe even World Championships, then it's worth arriving a good day or maybe even 2 days before the event is due to start. Whereas, again, if it's a local long distance race and you're only travelling 1 hour up the road, then to arrive the evening before would be much more suitable. But when you get there, find out immediately about registration and then get your registration done as early as possible so that is out of the way. Especially if you've arrived early, it's nice to get that done before there are other competitors trying to register as well. Get your boat assembled and then try to secure a good parking space. If you can keep your boat next to your trailer, that will be a massive bonus, especially if you've got a box on your trailer where you keep your sails and your sailing kit. And then try talking to some local sailors, anybody else that you meet, about the racing area if you haven't been there before, any conditions that you might need to know about, consistent wind shifts, currents, that kind of thing, things that might make it easier for launching and recovery. In some events that I've been to, the launching can be an absolute nightmare, so well worth finding out what you can. If there are other boats going out sailing when you arrive, take a look at where they're launching and see how they're going about that process if it is a non-straightforward launching area. Try to get out for a sail the day before the event starts if you can. It's very nice to get a feel for the area that you're sailing in and also to check your boat, give it what I'd call the shakedown, make sure that the boat is working as it should. And then the evening before the event is going to start, try to eat dinner reasonably early. Make sure that it's of a quality. So try to avoid burgers and pizza or fast food, because what you put in is going to add to what you can get out of your body the following day, especially if it's going to be windy. So race day comes. Make sure that you're never going to have to rush to get to the start line. Arrive at the venue early, do whatever preparations are possible. Think about nutrition. How long are you going to be out on the water? Maybe take some bananas with you and definitely take some water. I add some electrolyte tablet to my water, which just seems to make the water a little bit more powerful, and but you can put additives in your water, which is going to help you if you're going to be out for a long time. Go to the skipper's meeting or briefing. Make sure you understand that the course and starting sequence, and then try to be one of the first boats to get on the water, and then sail to the start line. And if the course is out, locate all of the marks. As we've discussed before, one of the most important things to know whenever you're going sailing is, where are we going? Then once you've located the marks, you could start sailing the windward leg of the course, and by doing that you might be able to get an idea of if one side of the course has got better wind than the other side of the course. If you have time, sail halfway up to the windward mark. Note if there are any significant differences in wind speed or direction across the course, and make a plan accordingly. If you're sailing a boat which has a spinnaker, put the spinnaker up to check it, but whatever you do, don't capsize before the start. For the start of the race, find out which end of the start line is closer to the windward mark. The best is to start at the end that's closer, but if it's going to be crowded, perhaps consider starting more in the middle of the line to avoid congestion. Make sure that you don't sail far from the start line, and keep watching the committee boat for the starting sequence. Put yourself in a position where you don't have to tack. Aim to be approaching the line on a close reach so that you have the most options. If the whole fleet are moving forwards, make sure that you're not going to get left behind. Try to have as much space as possible, and then keep checking the time every 15 seconds before the start is ideal. And then off the start line, sail a little bit low to get a bit more speed off the start line, and that will help to stop boats sailing over the top of you and stealing your wind. If you can get clear, you can then start sailing your most efficient upwind angle, but protecting your clean wind is absolutely essential. Keep looking at where the other boats are. Look for any potential boats that will come in your path so that you don't have to make any last-minute decisions. And as soon as you've started sailing on the upwind leg from the start, try to make sure that you have got a game plan for every eventuality. On the upwind leg, don't leave your first tack too late. Unless you're coming first or last, coming into the first mark on the port ley line can be way too hectic and extremely stressful. Make a plan with your crew when you're going to bear off, when you're going to hoist the spinnaker, and anything else that you have to do. Don't leave anything to the last minute. Talk all the way up the upwind leg with your crew, discussing what you're going to be doing, when you're going to be doing it, and just making sure, especially in the early stages, your procedure is very clear. The more you communicate, the less chance there is of any major boat handling mistakes. On the downwind leg, always be looking for where to jibe and where the other boats are. If it's windy, just be careful not to leave your first jibe too late. It's very easy to overstand the downwind mark. Make decisions regarding other boats early, rather than having to respond last minute. Be careful not to jibe too late if it's windy, or too early if it's light. If you're sailing with a spinnaker, make a very detailed plan with your crew regarding when you're going to drop the spinnaker so that there's no last minute confusion. Then coming into the finish line, try to stay in between other boats and the finish line so that you don't risk losing positions. And then after the finish, talk about the race with your crew. What could you have done to improve? Who did well? Why did they do well? And just have a general discussion. You can learn something from every single race that you do. And then just some general things to keep in mind. Stay out of dirty wind. Stay out of trouble. If you can sail a clean race without any trouble, then you're going to do much better. Don't be early on the start line. Don't think that you can get away with rule infringements. Keep your eyes open. Know where the other boats are at all times. Know where the marks are at all times. If things aren't going so well, try not to get stressed. Remember, it is meant to be fun. And if you do badly in a race, you'll learn much more from that than if you win the race. Communication with the crew is extremely important. Even if they're not experienced, try telling them everything, and then it's a good way of having your plans clear in your mind. Avoiding collisions is very important. To help you avoid collisions, you should be using spatial awareness. So you should always know where all of the other boats are on the race course at all times. If you've got a crew on your boat, so if you're sailing a two-person boat, a very important job of the crew is to be spotting where potential collisions may be. And then along with spatial awareness comes thinking ahead. So if it does look like there is a potential collision course, then take action early rather than leaving it till the last minute before avoiding action. One other good idea in preparation for going to an event, if you haven't got the facility to do some club races or any practice beforehand, you could have a look at virtual regatta inshore. This is a simulator which you can either use a computer, telephone, iPad, something like that. But it really gives you a great idea of what to expect on the race course, and you can gain some good tactical insights from playing virtual regatta. Well worth a look. So there we go. I hope that was useful and that is going to help you when you go to your first event. Put it in the comments below if you have got any other tips for people who haven't been to events before. My name's Joe, this is Joyrider TV, and I'll be back soon with some more.